Author Chris Kresser, who believes in paleo diets, says that according to studies, eating dietary cholesterol does not lead to higher rates of blood cholesterol in most cases. And even if eating saturated fat and dietary cholesterol does lead to higher saturated fat rates or blood cholesterol, it still doesn't correlate to higher death rates. Do you agree with this? Why or why not?
Yeah, so Chris Kresser is well known to me. He's a nice human being. He's an acupuncturist, practices in Berkeley, California. I've debated the optimal diet with him on a national show that got millions and millions of views. He reads the literature. He's not a scientist that does original research. He hasn't been through medical school. That isn't necessary to be a nutritionist, but it's not a bad thing either. He's not. And he's developed, originally he was writing about the paleo diet, the evils of dairy, grain, and legumes, but he's changed it because there really isn't an authentic paleo diet. We don't know authentically what people ate 30,000 years ago. Very well-known PhD scientist Christina Warner has a wonderful YouTube picking apart the idea that we really can be certain what people ate, and the whole field of paleo diets is bogus. So Chris Kresser has renamed the diet he promotes the nutrivore diet, put dairy back in, put legumes back in. I don't know what there, it's just grain-free now. And that questions the whole authenticity of his platform, to be honest. But let's get back to the main question. There is cholesterol and there's saturated fat, and they're not the same. The body makes cholesterol. The average American eats 300 to 400 milligrams of cholesterol a day. A toothpick is 100 milligrams. So you've got 3 to 4 toothpicks a day of cholesterol if you're eating animal products, eggs, chicken, fish. If you're a plant eater, you have no dietary cholesterol. 3 or 4 toothpicks go away. Saturated fat and dietary fats are 100 times more common, and we might eat 100 to 150 grams of fat a day potentially in our diet, or more even. So it overwhelmingly is the bigger issue. That's one of the answers to the question. If you eat 300 or 400 milligrams of cholesterol a day in egg yolks and you stop eating it, it's a small amount of substance, actually. And yes, when we did studies in the 60s, I'm using the royal we because I was in elementary school, and you were a thin American in a metabolic ward at the National Institutes of Health or University of Minnesota, and they created a diet with and without cholesterol, often your blood cholesterol fell. But it was a different beast. It was actually a thinner, healthier version of the United States citizen. When you study the same findings now, usually in a 220-pound person who's been used to eating higher amounts of fat, there's very little change in the blood cholesterol out of dropping eggs, egg yolks, or other forms of dietary cholesterol. So it's muddied the waters. The best response to that is what Dr. Michael Greger talks about. If everybody smoked 24 cigarettes a day and the study design was drop it to 20 cigarettes a day, it's going to be hard to show much difference because you already got a baseline of disease promotion present. Well, when you're eating a lot of dietary cholesterol and saturated fat every day, dropping it is going to be difficult because you've got stores in your body and such. The USDA guidelines that came out in 2015 have basically been abused by many of these promoters like Chris Kresser by saying there's no longer a limit to dietary cholesterol mentioned by the guidelines. That's half true because they used to talk about 300 milligrams a day or limited to 200 milligrams a day. The USDA guidelines say very clearly, limit to as low as possible. There's no requirement. That's the main message. Your body makes cholesterol. Your body makes all the cholesterol you need from infancy through old age. So dietary cholesterol is unnecessary. How harmful it is the 3 to 4 toothpick question. I would advise people eat a exclusively plant diet and they will let their body make as much cholesterol as they need. Nobel Prize winning scientists said we need a blood cholesterol level, the LDL cholesterol, of about 25 to 30. We can make every hormone, every vitamin we need. We don't need high cholesterol levels to make the hormones. So your body will make that easily in every case, usually makes way more than that. Saturated fat is a different issue. There are some plants, like avocados a little bit, like olives a little bit, like certainly coconuts and palm, that have a substantial amount of saturated fat from plants. But it's mainly, where does the American diet get it? Cheese, 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 chicken, 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 red meat to some degree. Also, you gotta be careful with baked goods if they're being made with lard and other sources of saturated fat. Does saturated fat raise your blood cholesterol? Absolutely, absolutely. A analysis, if I recall, of 365 studies published in the 1990s demonstrated just a straight line: increased dietary saturated fat, feed people more eggs, more cheese, more chicken, or just give them high-fat foods in a research study, the higher will be your blood cholesterol. There's no doubt about it, and there's no controversy about it. And your HDL cholesterol may go up a little bit, your total cholesterol goes up, the overall risk for cardiovascular disease goes up. And many studies now have shown, and this is the bottom line, that if you have to eat, unless you're doing the 5-day fasting program by Dr. Longo, you have to eat. If you replace saturated fat, particularly from palm, coconut, the tropical oils, and from animal products like chicken, egg, cheese, red meat, if you replace them with complex carbohydrates, you decide to start eating whole grain foods, your risk of heart disease goes down as your cholesterol goes down. If you actually replace these high saturated fat food items with foods that have polyunsaturated fat. Okay, I'm going to cook, I'm making a stir fry. I used to use coconut oil, I used to put lard in my wok. Now I'm going to start putting organic vegetable oils. Your risk of heart disease goes down substantially by substituting. Now I prefer to eliminate, but if you're not yet ready to eliminate high fat promoting content to your diet, which are usually oils and butters and cheeses, at least substitute, and I say organic because there's a lot of pesticide and a lot of supermarket oils that you buy. So just buy a nice bottle of an organic vegetable oil and you'll have reduced your risk of heart disease substantially. But still the message is, I don't promote oils. I'd rather you not consume them at all.